in a few minutes, and we got a lot to cover. Ugh. No doubt about that. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We'll be live in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Live in 3 minutes. I gotta check the phone lines, which I usually do before I go on the air. I need that vacation. My voice has about had it. Okay. All right. Yeah, less than 3 minutes now. A little more than 2 minutes. That happens sometimes with the voice. I'm not exactly sure why. I'm sorry, guys. It'll be clear once I get on the air and start projecting. But I can't help it. Once I start projecting, my throat will be cleared. I changed my schedule a little bit today, and that's caused the throat problems. Roy, thank you for the $5 super sticker. Greatly appreciated. The honey's not the problem. There's fires in Florida, and the air's pretty bad, and I was outside, and that's what caused it. And it was a nice night. We left some of the windows open, so that outside air is what's doing it. Okay, 1 minute, so I'm going to start the other stream. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. This is where MAGA comes to talk. If you're new, welcome. We got a lot to cover. We're going to be live on the radio in less than a minute, a little more than 30 seconds. And I'm going to lead with the JFK files. And I know a lot of people will tell you, oh, that's 60 years ago and all this. Very, very relevant to today. So we're going to cover all that and more. Less than 20 seconds, so stand by. If you're new, subscribe. And if you're already subbed, follow and like. Here we go. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest running radio show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 78 years on the radio. Welcome. We got a lot to cover today. A lot. A lot's happened. President Trump talked to Putin, and we got a lot to cover. But I want to start with the JFK files. And 80,000 pages. We've gotten more information than you realize from the JFK files. And we're going to be, there's a lot of, I call them armchair historians, history buffs, JFK buffs, that are experts in everything involving the JFK events. And a lot of things in these files that I would look at or you look at that sound meaningless will mean a lot to these guys. But there's been a common theme throughout all of the files that have been talked about so far since this release came last night. And it's very relevant to what we are dealing with today with our favorite president, Donald John Trump, the 45th and 47th president of the United States. And I'll tell you what that is as we go on. But these Kennedy files, 80,000 pages, over 1,000 files, and it's going to take a long time, weeks, months, maybe even years for people to go through this. I mean, just to download the PDF files, everything is very well organized in PDFs. The redactions are gone. And just to download the PDF files, how long would that take and go through it? But there's been a common theme throughout everything that's been discussed so far. And with the common theme are three letters: CIA. CIA. CIA's all over this. And it's a confirmation of something we have suspected over the years, but that our own government, the CIA, killed Kennedy. That's it. Deep State killed Kennedy. We know the CIA killed Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy Jr. talks about this a lot, and of course he's a top expert on the assassination of his father and his uncle. And what I learned not that long ago, because I not followed the Bobby Kennedy assassination so much. That one was always even more of a mystery. And so little has been looked at and done since that. But what I learned not long ago, maybe you all knew about this forever and never. I did not. But I heard Bobby Kennedy talking about the assassination of his father and his uncle. And what Bobby Kennedy Jr. shared about the assassination of his dad was that he was shot dead in the back by his own bodyguard at that event, who was a CIA guy. So the CIA killed both Kennedys, and I don't know a single American who thinks that our own government didn't shoot President Trump in Butler and try to do it again at the golf course. Now, the players in the deep state may not be the CIA anymore. Maybe they are. We don't know. But the deep state killed the Kennedy brothers, and the deep state shot President Trump and tried to do it again and failed. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And it really baffles me I really have a hard time understanding this, because when a president, and this is one of the, and it confirms everything that President Trump has been going through with the deep state lawfare. But this is what I don't get, okay? Presidents become presidents we're not happy with. I remember when Obama became president. Oh, that sucked. I mean, he just was terrible. But I said at the time, listen, he's going to be president 4 years, 8 years at the worst, which he got the second term, and then it'll be our turn. And it was Donald Trump. And these psychopaths in the deep state that killed President Kennedy, as the files are proving to us, they're very impatient and very arrogant, aren't they? And, you know, all this, there were two things that I've not heard before that have come out too so far in the files. One, there were witnesses that saw Jack Ruby and Lee Harvey Oswald in the same nightclub at the same time, obviously before the assassination. I didn't know that. And that Oswald was known to be a bad shot. He was not a marksman. And we've always been told, because he was a Marine and he was a rifleman and all that he was some kind of marksman. But the files are showing that everyone said he was a bad shot. And, you know, another thing about this, we are all suspicious of anything the government does or says, right? And it's been that way my entire life. However, a lot of the statements and witness statements that have been given in these Kennedy files that were released yesterday, these were statements that were given prior to the era of suspecting everything the government does is some kind of conspiracy. That started long after the Kennedy assassination, got amped up during Vietnam in the late 60s and in the early 70s. All this distrust of government that we all now, for very good reason, have. They didn't have that during that period. So in a period when the suspicion of everything the government does didn't exist in the country, not like now, when some of these people were first interviewed and gave testimonies, and they're still blaming the government, saying CIA. And the CIA was trying to, according to the files that came out, the CIA most definitely was working to frame Oswald even the summer before the assassination in New Orleans, okay? So huge revelations have come out. There's also tons of names that no one has ever seen before in these files. Now, a lot of them are CIA code names and everything, but there's a lot of names. So these internet sleuths and Kennedy history buffs, they'll start putting all this together, and it will come together. And we're learning a lot, and it's another vindication of everything that Trump's had to go through, because this is how these people operate. It's their country. We are just living in it. So your thoughts on the JFK files certainly are welcome throughout the day. There's a lot of news stories that I am going to cover, but you're welcome to call in about your thoughts on the JFK files. One of the things that some of the testimony in these new files came out that was talked about at the time is that there's a lot in there, that there were multiple shooters. From the beginning, it's come out in these files. People were saying then, multiple shooters. One example that came out of the files is the shot that hit Kennedy and then the one that hit Conley was too close together for Oswald to use that bolt-action rifle and get another shot and do it. So there's a lot of things in these files that came out in the hours and early days after the Kennedy assassination that are just amazing. And this is not something you should say, oh, that was a long time ago. How's it relevant today? Because this is still going on today with the same agencies. That's why they've been trying to keep these files secret for so long because, as I said, the common theme through it all is the CIA. CIA's throughout everything, all over this. And I find it fascinating. And I did read through some of it, but most of it's gobbledygook to me, and it will be to you. So we're going to have to wait for the experts and the internet historians and internet sleuths to put the pieces together and start sharing with us because it's so complex, so detailed. And there's so many people in America whose whole lives have revolved around the Kennedy assassination and investigating it. So I'm fascinated by the whole thing. Your calls are certainly welcome at 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. I want to tell you guys about the free doorbell camera offer from Slomin's. This is an amazing offer. You can get a doorbell camera that connects directly to your cell phone. So no matter where you are, you could be at the grocery store, you could be jammed up in the bathroom, you could be on the cruise with me in a couple weeks. If there's movement at your door, you're going to get a notification on your cell phone, and you can see who's at your door no matter where you are. And you can get a doorbell camera from Slomin's for free with the installation of your Slomin Shield. Slomin's is also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts for the doors and windows, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus you'll receive a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Slomin Shield. No matter where you're located, call Slomin's right now, 1-800-ALARM-ME. 1-800-ALARM-ME. Isn't that a great number? That's the best number that I've ever heard for a company. 1-800-ALARM-ME. 1-800-ALARM-ME. Get your free doorbell camera with the installation of your Slomin Shield. My name's Brian. This is the Steve Kane Show. Call us on hold, stand by. We'll take our first break of the day and be right back. Hey guys, if you're new, make sure that you subscribe, all right? What do you guys? What are your thoughts on these files? It confirms everything that the government did it. We now know the government did it. It wasn't the mob. It wasn't Russia. It was our own deep state. Alex Jones, welcome, welcome. It's nice to have a celebrity in the mix. We'll be back in about 90 seconds. Callers on hold, stand by. I'll take some calls after the break before I get into some new stuff because there's a lot to cover. Today's a busy day. Every day is a busy day of news in Trump's second term, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, of course, this is, if you're new, where MAGA comes to talk. This is the most pro-Donald Trump program you will find anywhere. I proudly say I'll never disagree nor criticize President Trump. I say that with pride. This is the only program that takes live phone calls completely unvetted. And what I mean by that is when you call in, I just put you on hold. Here we go. I just put somebody else on hold. And nobody answers the phone. I take the calls live on the air. I don't know who you are, what you're going to bring up. The calls are totally unvetted. So now we are on the radio, so you can't use profanity. We'll be back in 1 minute, less than a minute. You can't use profanity, okay, because we're on the radio. But the calls are completely unvetted. And the toll-free number is pinned in the live chat. So all you trolls out there that take issue with anything you hear me bring up or any issues or what another caller brings up, pick up the phone and call. You will get on the air if you're man enough to call. And no one else takes the calls 100% unvetted like that. Okay, just a few seconds, we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. Flow Rida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977. All right, I'm going to take some calls before I bring up anything new. Again, the number's toll free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your name? Yeah, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, I'm glad I got through. Hey, this is Gary. I'm calling from Balls Deep, and your mom.
Isn't that nice? First call of the day, Mike. We got to hit the dump button. If you're on hold, hang in there. I've got to wait for the delay to re-engage before we take more calls. Oh, my goodness. Well, when you take calls completely unvetted and screenless, there's so many benefits to it. And the price you got to pay are some of the weirdos that call in. But that's all. That's just what happens. All right, before we go back to the calls, while we wait for the delay to re-engage, I do want to play something here. This is Don Lemon and Don Lemon. Don Lemon, since he left CNN, he's been pretty desperate for some attention. So he'll say and do whatever he's got to say to get some attention. He went on with Bill Maher on Bill Maher's show, not his HBO show, but he went on that show where Bill Maher smokes weed and drinks booze and interviews famous people. And he's talking about black MAGA, not dark MAGA, black MAGA people who are black, who are MAGA. Listen.
Not all black Republicans, but I see a black MAGA person who is carrying Donald Trump's water and they know that he's lying. It is the shortest line to the front. Because if you're black and you're whatever, you're just in line with a bunch of other Democrats that are doing the same thing that you're doing. But if you become a black MAGA person, it's like, whoa, let's book this person, let's put him on television.
So you don't think it would be a sincere black man?
No, I just said, I don't think that, I just said I think there can be sincere Republicans.
But you can't be a sincere black Republican?
I don't think you can be a rational MAGA, be black and be a rational MAGA person. I think you can be black and be a Republican.
I think they would find that very insulting.
Well, I mean, the truth is often insulting.
Okay. Don Lemon. Okay. Now, a couple things about Don Lemon here, okay? This is an interesting thing. What is the difference between being a Republican and being MAGA? Now, there really isn't, because we are Republicans. We're the conservatives now. Now, there's a difference between the Republican establishment and MAGA. And there's two things going on with him here, Don Lemon. One, he's desperate for attention and trying to go viral. And this clip has gotten some viral activity. So that mission accomplished. But he's also desperate for support. And I think he's doing a shout out to the Republican establishment to give him some help in getting his program out there that no one's listening to. He does a podcast and no one talks about it, and it's not interesting. No one's interested in that viewpoint. Right? That's why MSNBC and CNN are failing. It's because people don't want to hear that viewpoint. So he's out there trolling for financial backing from the Trump-hating Republican establishment and wants them to know. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. It's so desperate and obvious. But Bill Maher, who's a smart guy, on this show he's usually high, so he misses a lot of things. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Where are you calling from? What's your name?
Hi, it's Louise, the masked lady in
Hey, Louise.
Boca.
Hey, Louise.
Well, as I recall, with the JFK assassination, I was a young woman. Dorothy Kilgallen was going to interview Ruby in jail, as I remember, and she suddenly died.
Well, now it's funny thing. Steve Kane was telling me about this Kilgallen woman a couple weeks ago, maybe last week.
Dorothy Kilgallen was a columnist.
Yeah, well, let me tell you what Steve told me, and maybe this will ring some bells with you, because what you said is true, but there's a little bit more. She had already, what Steve had told me is that she had already interviewed Jack Ruby, and she had said that she's got the whole story now, that she knows exactly what happened, and then that night she turned up dead.
Maybe that was it. Maybe I missed that. I thought she was going to interview him.
Well, she said she had everything.
All of a sudden, supposedly barbiturates.
Yeah.
And whatever. But I still want to mention Elon Musk. He should have had a ticker tape parade.
I know. Wasn't that amazing yesterday?
Yes, and nobody even mentioned it. David Muir, he is out in my book.
He didn't cover it? David Muir didn't cover it on the nightly news?
Not at all. He didn't even mention Elon
Unbelievable.
Musk.
Unbelievable.
Not a word of his name. Nothing. He's blackballed. Well, I know he's a Democrat, but I would put him on for a quick synopsis of news, at 6:30.
Yeah.
But now I am boycotting him.
Oh, good.
No more,
you and the rest of America. All right, Louise, thanks for the call. This thing about the splashdown yesterday, that's the first time I've ever watched a splashdown. I'm sure that SpaceX has covered other splashdowns. I've never seen one before. And I don't think most people did. And that there was probably, I bet you, there were on the different platforms, because it was all over the internet. I was watching it on the official NASA YouTube channel. Not only did I watch the splashdown, I was watching the whole reentry long before, and I stopped watching when they got the 2 stranded astronauts on the stretchers out of the capsule. And I was fascinated by it. Back in the day when they were landing in capsules in Apollo and Mercury and Gemini and all that, they landed in the water, but way out in the Pacific Ocean, because they didn't have the same type of guidance technology they have today. So this was in the Gulf of America yesterday, off the coast of Florida. They said off the coast of Tallahassee. I've never heard someone refer to that area as off the coast of Tallahassee, because Tallahassee is not on the ocean. It's inland a little bit. But those splashdowns, the last time they were doing splashdowns was during the Gemini days, right? And you didn't see that live, not like this. You may have seen film footage of it, but it would be the next day or even a week later or on some history documentary. To watch the whole thing live, a splashdown in the ocean, and watch the recovery and then pull the astronauts out, never seen that before. And it was fascinating. Now, this lowlife, Senator Kelly, who's an astronaut, he was putting this down. He couldn't, as an astronaut, you would think he could get out of his partisan hackness for a few minutes, but even Kelly couldn't commend the astronauts or Elon or SpaceX or NASA, because he's just such a partisan jerk. But that was amazing yesterday, and I was blown away at the whole technology. Now, I don't know why they splashed down in the ocean like they were doing that, with Alan Shepard, right? The first American in space. So I don't know why they choose that. Maybe it's easier. Maybe it's safer. Maybe it's, I don't know, than as opposed to having a space shuttle-like vehicle that can land like an airplane. They've got their reasons. I'd be curious to hear somebody ask Elon Musk about that. But in those days, they used to take them out of the capsule, lift them up in the helicopter, and then pull the capsule out. And I was expecting that. When I saw the splashdown and I saw those speedboats heading towards the capsule, I just assumed they were going to take the astronauts out in those boats and then lift the capsule up on a helicopter and then put it on the ship. But nothing. It was nothing like that. It was just phenomenal what they did, and it was American excellence, American pride was felt throughout this country, and just American excellence so far as the incredible technology and the genius that we have with the Albert Einstein of the 21st century, the first bud, Elon Musk. I was blown away by the entire process. The lift that lifted it out of the water onto the ship, how they got them out of the capsule. I was blown away by the entire thing. When the speedboats came up, I thought this was strange. They were wearing like gas masks and these suits. I'm like, what's that about? Because I remembered back in the days of Apollo, and I don't know if they did this in Gemini. They did this with Mercury too, but these guys, they were in isolation for a while in case they brought back some space diseases, I guess. And I was like, why are they wearing gas masks? And then the guy gets out with a wand. They were wearing gas masks to make sure there wasn't fuel leaking out of the spacecraft's thruster engines that is toxic. And that was amazing. They plugged up the engines for all of that. I was fascinated by the entire thing. And I've not been that excited about a re-entry of an American spacecraft since the Columbia landed for the first time, like an airplane, after its first flight when, what was that, 81? I was a kid when that happened. And it was pretty cool, right? Wasn't it? Absolutely. And when I saw Mark Kelly trashing, this wasn't a rescue, and they had a capsule there the whole time and all this stuff. None of this was true, what he said. I mean, you know, there was a little truth in his lies, but this was most definitely the first rescue in space, and it was an amazing thing. And I'm proud of Elon, I'm proud of NASA and SpaceX, and proud of our great country that we're number one. And it was nice to see getting off of our space capsule these foreigners from other countries. There was a Russian and a Japanese astronaut. They have to hitch rides with us because we are number one. If you're on hold, stand by. My name's Brian. This is the Steve Kane Show. We'll take our bottom of the hour break and be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. We'll be back in 1 minute. One minute, we'll be back. Less than a minute, actually. If you're new, my name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Make sure you follow and subscribe. And if you're already subbed, please like and share the video on all your socials. I'd appreciate that. Helps grow the channel. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, and it is Wednesday, March 19th. Oh, man, already. We're just 11 days away from our cruise. I'm very excited. All right, the cruise is coming. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good morning, Brian. This is Richie.
Hey, Richie.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about the space deal yesterday. I have to tell you, as a little kid, this is what I've seen in my lifetime is shocking. As a little kid, I remember going to the United Nations with my class, and they were showing the Sputnik, and there was the space race, you know, and they put an astronaut up, the Russians, and you know what we were putting up in the air? Mice.
Yeah.
And then you know what our first astronaut, who he was?
Yeah, the monkey.
That I was a chimpanzee.
Yeah, a monkey. Yeah.
Yeah, a monkey. So look where we've come. And then when the Challenger that was that faulty tile. What shocked me yesterday was they got rid of the tiles. I didn't realize that. It's one piece and it's a different material.
It was the Columbia. The Columbia disintegrated from the tiles. The Challenger blew up because of that frozen valve thing.
Yeah, they don't use the tiles anymore. And then when you see the scorching of that was a pure white, beautiful thing up in when it came into the air. You see what it looked like?
It was amazing.
You know, a pizza oven is 800 degrees. That thing came down 3,500 degrees. And like Elon last night on Hannity, he said, you know, meteors burn up coming down, rocks. I mean, this is not meant to be. We have our science, and I mean, you. I know you're a big Star Wars and all this, and let me tell you something. It's reality. It's not TV anymore. It's total reality. And I believe we are going to Mars. I really believe that. And for them to do what they're doing to Elon Musk is a disgrace. You saved those two people.
Well, yeah, and when I saw Mark Kelly, I might play it later. He was ripping this rescue, like he was telling everybody it wasn't a rescue, and I mean, and he's an astronaut, and I've never seen such disrespect for fellow astronauts.
Elon Musk said that politically they wouldn't put him up, but he went to Biden. Biden wouldn't do it because he would have made him look too good, and he was supporting Trump.
Well, you know, no, he's not. You know, this is the thing, okay? You know, the things have gotten so partisan that the Democrats, they couldn't stand up for a 13-year-old boy who beat cancer. They couldn't stand up and support a mother whose little girl at 12 was raped and murdered, you know? And they can't stand up for something that all Americans should be standing up for, which is this amazing example of American excellence and superiority in technology and in space. And SpaceX, you know, you look at what runs that thing, it's like a couple of iPads they've got strapped to the thing, right? I mean, it's amazing. You know, you remember what it used to be like in these things in the old days?
Yeah. You've been to the Kennedy Space Center. I mean, I have too. You see how small, you think the original ones were so small, you couldn't fit in them. I'm too fat to fit in the damn
I got
thing.
in the one of the Mercury capsules at Kennedy Space Center. Last time I was there, I was like stuck in it. I could hardly get out of it, and I wasn't wearing a spacesuit. I was wearing shorts and a T-shirt and a MAGA hat. And I'm thinking about John Glenn and all these great guys. What they went. I've met a lot of astronauts over the years and talked to them. And I always ask them about the re-entry. They say the re-entry is nothing. They say the launch is terrifying, but the re-entry you don't have that feeling of falling, which I would think you would have. They said that, but I saw those astronauts during the re-entry. I couldn't believe how calm they were. I mean,
a replica of a takeoff is at Disney World. I went on it with my wife years ago. It's a trip to the moon.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something. After I come down.
Yeah.
I mean, my face was, after I got off of that ride, and they said it replicates. I mean,
yeah.
Let me tell you something. I was sick for 45 minutes.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what happened, but William Shatner a couple years ago went up on Jeff Bezos's launch.
Yeah.
And he had, I thought, the most interesting thing I've ever heard anyone say that went to space. Now, he wasn't up there for long, and they go right up and down, but he said there's nothing up there. It's just black. He says everything's right here on Earth. There's nothing. And he was like, William Shatner, because I'm a big Star Trek fan. I've spent time with William Shatner in private, and I've gotten to know him a little bit. And since he's come back from space, he's had like some religious experience. He's a different person. And when he said there's nothing up there but blackness and darkness, and you look down and everything here's on Earth, it was a big revelation to him. But no, that was...
there is a God, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what it is. They realize there is a creator, because this just didn't happen like this.
No.
You just can't go out there and look at this black nothing and realize that this whole thing was
just an accident.
By something.
The liberals think it was just an accident. But these astronauts, the woman, I was surprised, the lady astronaut that was stranded, she's been with NASA a long time. She flew on the space shuttle. I was surprised. So did the guy who was stranded.
Yeah, a lot of things surprised me yesterday. She had the most experience. She's been up there the longest. She had the longest spacewalk. She's been out. It's amazing.
And she is
amazing.
She is, and the guy too, but she is a veteran astronaut who's been through a lot in space. And she's not going to be a guest on The View or any of these shows. If Kamala or Biden were president, or Obama, she'd be honored on The View. They'd give her a standing ovation. But because Trump's president, they can't acknowledge anything positive about America. So there's not going to be any parades. There's not going to be... They may be like on Fox and a couple of things, but they're not going to be on The View or any shows like that and honored, because the left are just such partisan hacks.
In closing, I can't stand to get up on a jet plane to go from here to Jacksonville.
No, me either.
Let alone fly out of space and then come back knowing you might burn up.
Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. You have to have the guts of... You have to be like suicidal, I believe it. I mean, I wouldn't do it.
These are like these people that have a lot of extra... What are they, I don't know, is it dopamine? I don't know what they have. The people that can ride... like Tom Cruise, who jumps out of airplanes and things. These people are just fearless. I don't know. I was wondering if they dope...
the entry.
Oh.
The entry coming back. I mean, you don't know whether you're going to make it or not.
I don't even ride roller coasters. I don't ride roller coasters. I'm terrified of roller coasters. Sure. The ones I go on are like for kids, like baby roller coaster, like Space Mountain at Disney World is like the most thrill. I went on that Tron roller coaster once. I'll never go on that again. Oh my goodness. But what happened yesterday, the advancements in the space program have advanced light years since the days of the space shuttle.
Yeah. I mean, look at the inside. Look like a Tesla. I'm telling you.
All right, Richie. All right, take care. And you can see see, this is what the left hate: American pride. These new polls that are out that show that the Democrats are in so much trouble. And the Democrats they're trying to realign what they're doing and their messaging so that they can become more popular. and they don't understand what the problem is. You know, the Democrats think that they're not doing well in the polls and Trump is doing so well because they're not radically liberal enough. So they're going to go more to the fringe. The reason that the Democrats are so low in the polls is many, okay? One of the reasons, though, is their party has been hijacked by radical anti-American, twisted, racist activists. You know, when you can't stand for a 13-year-old little boy who beat brain cancer, who's black, by the way, which liberals would usually applaud just because he's black, or you can't celebrate a great American accomplishment like the space rescue yesterday and with that splashdown, you've got problems. And what's happened with the Democrat Party, the face of the party is their Congress, right? And they're talking about, I couldn't believe that, so I read this today. They want to make AOC the face of the party now. They want to make her the leader of the party, at least the PR leader, because Schumer's been there. They're trying to push Schumer out and replace him with AOC. And I don't mean just in the Senate. That may be in the cards. But they want AOC to be the face of the Democrat Party. They think that radical, anti-American, anti-white socialism is the way to go. And they're going to quadruple down, maybe even more than, maybe they'll double quadruple down on that theme, which I hope they do. Because they're in the 20s now, they'll be in the single digits overnight with that. People love this country. Americans love this country. And this has always been a country of very proud Americans. But a lot of people thought being anti-American was in vogue. And with Donald Trump's second term, you know, I was on Newsmax a couple weeks ago, and they were asking me about this, and about the State of the Union reaction. And I said, with President Trump's second term, it's morning in America again. And that's what's happened. And a lot of people who thought woke and liberalism and radicalism and anti-white racism was the popular viewpoint, they realized, no, it's not. People don't think that way. That ideology is a fringe, lunatic, activist fringe that is just taken over the face of the Democrat Party through their representation in Congress. People like AOC, Tlaib, and the rest, that's the face of their party in Congress. And they're in big trouble. Now, I want to tell you guys about MyPillow and Mike Lindell. Oh, man. You know, I was talking the other day, as you get older, you know, you find that you don't sleep as long as well. You need more help. You know, the MyPillows, I have all the MyPillows. The premium MyPillow, it's the Giza cotton fabric. The Giza MyPillow is a luxury MyPillow, is normally $69.98. You can get it for just $19.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. Free shipping on orders over $75. You know, the thing about the MyPillow and that patented fill is it's really amazing. The patented fill that Mike Lindell invented, what it does is it stops you from tossing and turning at night. Your head and neck are in place and you don't toss and turn. So you get a longer, well-rested sleep. When you toss and turn, even though you don't remember, every time you do that, you wake yourself up. And even though you're not aware, you forget when you wake up. Like you forget your dreams a lot. It's like having sleep apnea. You know, people have these sleep apnea machines and everything. The MyPillow, all of the MyPillows with that patented fill inside, keep your head and neck perfectly in place. You never toss and turn. And the Giza cotton fabric, the premium MyPillow, that the cover is made with Giza cotton. Again, the queen size is just $19.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout. That is $50 off. That Giza cotton, it keeps your head and neck the perfect temperature all night too. So you won't toss and turn, you sleep longer, you get in REM sleep, and boom, you're there. So I don't sleep that many hours a night with the crazy schedule I have, but those few hours I get are deep, well-rested sleep, thanks to Mike Lindell's MyPillow and that premium fill. So go to MyPillow.com, order yours. This is the lowest price ever on the premium Giza MyPillow. You can also order by phone, 1-800-716-4879, 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane, Kane. We'll take our last break of the first hour and be right back. Those of you that are new, make sure that you subscribe, all right? And if you're already subbed, please like the video. All right, we'll be back in just a couple of minutes, guys. I almost walked away with my headphones on. That wouldn't work out very well, would it? Okay. Yeah, guys. Now, remember, when you use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com, you're supporting all my content, the radio show, my YouTube channel, my podcast, and everything. And it's greatly appreciated. I just talked to Mike the other day, and your support of him is greatly appreciated by him and me and Steve Kane and this program. So, and that's a great deal on the Giza My Pillow. Look at that. The king size just $24.98. I have the queen sizes because we have a queen size bed. And those are great pillows. We get them as gifts for people all the time. They make great gifts. All right, we'll be back in about 45 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Those of you that are going on our cruise, we leave a week from Sunday on the cruise. I'm packing this weekend. I tried on a bunch of my cruise clothes over the weekend, and that's great because I lost all this weight. So some of them I've lost too much weight for. I tried on a pair of swimming trunks. I tied that rope as tight as I could, and they fell right off of my body. But I was talking to Ian from Cruise and Travel Depot. You know, you can check in early. And if you've not done it, do it. I want to tell you why. It not only saves you time at the port. I thought it just saved you time at the port. You get to the port, you get on the ship faster. And as soon as you get on the ship, the free food and everything begins. But you want to check in early. And a lot of you have not. You're waiting till you get to the port. You're going to hear me mention this a lot coming up. And I'll tell you why. This is what I found out from Ian, our travel agent, yesterday. If there's any mistake on your reservation, like there's a misspelling of your name or there's something incorrect, this is the time for that to get corrected. When you get to the port, if there's a problem like that, it may not be able to get corrected and you may not be able to get on board. So you can call Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot. He'll help you check in early. So it's not just, I thought it was just to make the process smoother when you get to the port, and it does that. But it also, if there's a problem, like if your name's misspelled on the reservation, or there's some other problem with your passport number is entered incorrectly or something. I know we have to have documents to leave the country. We're not migrants, illegal migrants. That's the time that it can be corrected when you check in early. It cannot necessarily be corrected at the port. You don't want to get to the port and find out your passport number's entered incorrectly or something, and you're not able to go. So if you've not checked in, do it. If you don't know how to do it, just call Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot, and he'll walk you through it. Okay, now I was watching yesterday. There was a lot of discussion about the transgender thing in Maine with the governor up there, who's allowing the transgender biological boys on the girls' team. And this is an issue that I don't cover that much. I don't like talking about it. And the reason I don't like talking about it is that's an issue. There's no other side to it. It's just stupid. And I was listening to these terrible stories of moms talking about their teenage girls in the high school locker room being forced to change clothes in front of these transgender biological boys who were doing the same in the high school locker room. And these are not biological boys that have had sex change operations. They have penises, okay? And so they're getting naked, and the girls are supposed to get naked, and the administration is making the girls get naked. Teenage girls, these are children, in front of this naked biological boy. And that's so stupid, it's hard for me to even discuss, because there's just no other side to that debate. And this is a perversion for these school administrators to do this. Most of these girls, hopefully none of them, because they're in high school, haven't even seen a penis in person. Okay, naked, right? They're kids, right? And for it's sick what they're doing. They shouldn't even have to dress out at that age in a locker room. But why are these administrators and teachers and coaches and governors and politicians making teenage children, girls, get naked in front of biological boys who are naked too at school? When I was in school, they would arrest a teacher or an administrator for doing something like that. Now they make them teacher of the year or principal of the year and all of that. But Megan Rapone, who was the captain of the women's soccer team, she's, let me just read this headline. Former soccer star Megan Rapone slams depraved Trump over ban on men and women's sports. This isn't an issue. And she goes on and on. And I mean, come on. So they got Megan Rapone. She's probably making a living doing this now because, what is she going to do? But I pulled up a story that you can Google and verify yourself, what I'm going to share with you next. So Megan Rapone, former captain of the U.S. women's soccer team, she was also on our Olympic team. She's saying biological men should be able to compete on the girls' teams. And I think most of these transgendered athletes, most of them, maybe all, but most of them are cheaters. They can't make it on the boys' team, so they do this, and now all of a sudden they're breaking records, getting scholarships and all of that. But Megan Rapone, who's now becoming an advocate, and I'm curious to know if she's a paid advocate for this movement. Maybe she is. I don't know. I haven't seen her on a Subway commercial in a while, so she's got to do something to make a living. I pulled up this story, and this story, as I say, you can verify this story on your own. Just let your fingers do the Googling. But Megan Rapone's, when she was captain of the USA women's soccer team, they played a group of middle school boys that were under the age of 15, and they lost to the boys. This is the U.S. World Cup women's team, right? The Women's World Cup. The team that the United States sent to the Women's World Cup, these are supposed to be the top professional female soccer athletes in America. They played boys under the age of 15, and they lost big. This is from CBS Sports. In preparation for two upcoming games against Russia, the U.S. women's national team played FC's Dallas under 15-year-old boys academy team and lost 5-2. So the Megan Rapone's team lost 5-2 against middle school boys under the age of 15. And I don't know how young the youngest player was. And that just tells you the difference in the athletic abilities between tween boys and adult top women athletes who are top in their field. Under the age of 15 boys beat the team that the United States sent to the Women's World Cup. So those are the top professional women in American soccer. And that just tells you that boys and girls are not equal when it comes to some things. And Megan Rapone, I guess this is her new thing now to be relevant or make money. I don't know. But as Megan Rapone travels around America promoting this nonsense, that story was well documented at the time. Now, if that had happened today, we wouldn't know about it. But this is that game against the under 15-year-old tween boys that Megan Rapone's team lost to, 5-2. They lost big, right? In a soccer game, that's a lot. Because of the transgendered issue, that's been forgotten from history, and no one ever asks her about it. But you know, and again, don't take my word for it. You can Google that story on your own. It was widely reported at the time. And I remember it well, and it took me as long as it took me to type that into a Google search to find the story, and it popped up in many press accounts. The one I shared was from CBS Sports, because I wanted to use a liberal news organization, CBS, and CBS Sports very liberal, so you know they can't say, oh well, that was Fox Sports or something. Now, if you or someone you know or love suffer from neuropathy, you don't have to. Call Lighthouse Medical. When you call, make sure you mention the Steve Kane Show. You can take advantage of their no-charge consultation. Steve was treated over 2.5 years ago for his neuropathy by Lighthouse Medical. Not only is his neuropathy symptoms, are they all gone? Yes, they're all gone. But over 2.5 years later, none of them have returned. The numbness, the pain, the burning, the tingling in the hands and feet. Steve had all these symptoms. The muscle weakness, the dizziness, the feeling of pins and needles in his hands and feet, sometimes no sensation at all, made life pretty unbearable, unlivable. But Lighthouse Medical, they not only have a treatment for neuropathy that works, it's a treatment that lasts. Give them a call, 754-222-6642. 754-222-6642. Even if you cannot make it into their office in Pompano, they can help you no matter where you're located in America. 754-222-6642. And online, lighthousemedicalcenter.com. That's lighthousemedicalcenter.com. All right, my name is Brian Craig. This is the Steve Kane Radio Show, Florida's longest running radio show. That's right, it's Wednesday. We'll take our break for the top of the hour, come back with more of your calls, and there's a lot more to discuss as well. Our number's toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. We'll be back right after this. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. If you're on hold, hang in there. I got a lot of stories to cover today. Just scratch the surface. It's one of those days, man. One of those days. So much to cover. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. And if you're already sub, please like and share the video on all your socials. That helps a lot, guys. And I appreciate your support. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll go to the calls before I bring up anything new, probably. Oh, yeah. The files are awesome. At the very beginning of the stream, you can rewind. I went through the files. I'll recap them and bring them up again. But I went through some details at the very beginning of the program. So if you rewind, you can catch that. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes. Mike DeVito just subscribed. Welcome, Mike DeVito, new subscriber. Oh boy, big day today. Just over a minute, we'll be back. This is, for those who are new, we're on 8 FM radio stations, and this is the top of the hour break at the radio stations. $50 seconds. $30 seconds. Welcome, one and all. Welcome back, everyone. Hour number 2 has begun on this Wednesday, the 19th day of March, 2025. My name is Brian Craig, and you are listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. I brought up a lot in the first hour, so I'll take some of these calls before I bring up anything new. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Hey, Doug.
You know, you're just talking about how all these men are in women's sports, and everybody's wondering. You know, when I was a kid, I don't remember anybody being gay even, but all of a sudden, somebody sent me an article, maybe it's true, that they're saying that everything is in plastic now, and plastic has some seepage, and the seepage goes in, and it makes like an estrogen, similar to estrogen, which blocks the testosterone, so making men into girls. So I don't know if that's correct, but
I don't know.
Because
I don't know, but I know this. I know this. When I see, this school, I live in the house where my daughter lived the whole time she went to school, kindergarten through senior year of high school. And so her elementary school is down the street from my house. And when I see the dads that are picking up their kids from school, they don't look like the dads that picked me up. Yeah. Or when I was picking my daughter up. These guys look very soft and doughy, and they're just not... I almost feel bad for the girls. They don't have manly men in their mating pool any longer. Not like they used to.
Yeah. Well, if it's the plastic, I don't know, man. Everybody got something.
I don't know if it's from the plastic, because you and I grew up on plastic. All right, plastic's been around for 100 years, man. So I don't think it's the plastic.
Yeah.
I just think,
Yeah.
you know what it is? It's just that's been the theme. Women domination, and the men are now like women. Like there's a movie I saw a few months ago on Netflix. I forget the name of it. Jason Bateman's in it. He plays the villain. Somebody will know this movie. It totally illustrates what's going on with men today. It's about a TSA worker who terrorists get him to let a bomb through, right? And he's got a young wife, and he doesn't like his job. And he has these multiple conversations with his wife, and she keeps saying to him, well, if you don't like your job, fine it. I just want you to be happy. It's important for you to be happy. She's got a job where she's a supervisor at the airport, and he's a TSA, and she keeps saying, I just want you to be happy, honey. He's like a woman with all, you get a job. When you're a man, you get a job and you work, right? And you do it, whether you like it or not. I'm lucky. I've got a great career. But, and they were talking, it's like they have these scripts, and they've just reversed the genders in all of them. And that's how these guys are that I see picking their kids up from the school down the street where my daughter went. They're like girls.
Yeah, man. I don't know how it became popular or something, because something went wrong. When I was a kid, nobody would be gay, and if they were, they kept it to themselves. Well,
there were always guys that we had suspicions of. Come on.
Yeah, I'm sure, but not like it is now, man. And now it's they come out and they want to go in sports and go.
Many years ago, this was many years ago. I was in Fort Lauderdale, downtown Fort Lauderdale, and this black woman, Brian, how you doing? And I'm like, who? And I thought, is this a listener? Who is this? Brian, don't you remember me? And I'm like, no. Brian, come on. And I have no idea. And it was a black woman in a mini skirt and high heel. I'm like, what? It was a guy I went to high school with.
Oh, geez.
I know. I was like, what? I said, what's going on? You look a little different. Then he told me the name that he had in high school. And I'm like, oh yeah, hey, you look a little different. And he said I was always this way. I just was in the closet in high school. I was like, okay. I was like blown away. Oh my gosh! Even had a new name and all this. Oh my goodness.
And this the government people who are allowing this. I guess there's so many that they have to allow. I mean, that doesn't make sense. These people are just trying to be.
Well, this thing that I was talking about with Megan Rapone, who's becoming the voice of the transgendered movement, when her women's World Cup soccer team lost to under 15-year-old boys 5-2, that's pretty bad. That tells you everything you need to know. All right, Doug, take care. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeff from Maine.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, everything the Democrats are standing against, and I think this first one, biological boys and girls sports, locker rooms, bathrooms, they're digging a hole. They're against Trump fighting our enemies. They're against ICE deporting illegal criminals. Everything they're standing against is making more people wake up in the Democrat Party, and it's going to bury them for the 2026 and 2028 election.
Well, Jeff, one of the biggest issues that caused Trump to do so well winning Democrat votes was the transgendered issue.
Yes. How can my point in Maine, and I get very vocal against these Democrats that are trying to push that agenda. I said, anybody that votes for these evil, twisted people are idiots. I don't care if I offend people that Jared Golden, one of our liberal representatives, has finally come out and said men or boys shouldn't be in
women's sports or girls' sports. And he's doing it because he's eyeing running for the governor or senate or something.
Well, Jeff,
You know,
you're in
last
ground
minute,
zero. You're in ground zero for transgendered activism because you're in Maine. And I was
Maine's against it.
well, I was
Maine's
listening.
against
Well,
it,
not
Brian.
your governor. And I was listening to this story yesterday.
Right.
It was on Fox of these school administrators. I think it was in Maine. Doesn't matter where they were, but I think it was in Maine, where they were making the school administrators were making the teenage children, girls, get naked and change clothes in the locker room in front of the naked boys who were transgender, the biological boys. And someone needs to look into these administrators because that is that's creepy. Why would they make the girls get naked in front of somebody with a penis
You know what I think?
that's naked?
I think they should be charged with child abuse.
Well, you know what that's like? That's
What?
like that creepy guy. You know, that's like Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger was a creepy little like child pervert, molester in the movies. That's why the neighbors killed Freddy Krueger. That's borderline child. That's child molestation level stuff that they're doing there with that. It really
Yes,
is.
yes, it is.
And it's you got to
We
call
have-
it what it is.
We have a wonderful representative, Laurel Libby, who has been censured for speaking out against these boys in girls' locker rooms, sports, and bathrooms. They censored her and won't let her talk, and she's suing them. We have several that are standing up, and I believe that you're going to see a big shift in Maine because Mills is done. I don't even want to call her that. Mills is done, that evil, twisted female. You know, I don't call her a woman because there isn't a woman, a lady, that will okay or be okay with boys in girls' sports locker rooms or bathrooms. Am I right with that?
Yeah, I mean it's crazy.
If
to
you're
me.
a lady,
It's crazy.
you know, but we need to, as far as Maine people in any state that's pushing this agenda, I told every man on that, on all the political sites that I'm on in Maine, that you need to do your job and stand up against this and voice your opinion and call your representatives and say enough. We need to put an end to it because I believe there's way more against this stuff than the few that are for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to just unite. And Trump's doing that because he already passed that executive order, Title IX, was it?
Yeah.
That forbid. So now it's going to go through the court system, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's what the White House said. They gave Maine 10 days. So I guess they got 9 days left. And they were vague about it. They said there'll be some type of Justice Department action if they don't comply. I don't know what that means. It could mean court, but it could mean something else. Who knows? You know, I think if you're making children get naked in front of each other like that are the opposite gender, that's pedo behavior, and maybe there'll be some arrest made. That's really creepy. Jeff, I got to run, but
Have a good day, Brian.
all right, you too. Now, I was telling you guys, I was trying on my cruise clothes, and one of my swimming trunks I was trying on, and I tightened the rope on the swim trunk, and they were still falling off my body. I've lost over 25 pounds thanks to coastal weight loss. And you know, a lot of you may want to lose less or maybe even more, 20 pounds, 50 pounds, 40 pounds, 100 pounds. No matter how much weight you want to lose, call Coastal Weight Loss Secret. I'm going to give you their number in just a moment. Call, set up an appointment with Dr. Zuckerman, and when you stop in, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. And I got to emphasize, because people are asking me about this, I have done no exercise. I am eating foods I would normally eat, and I'm a very picky eater, so it's difficult. Yesterday when I got off the air, I went to Chipotle, okay? And I always eat Chipotle as an example. Because I'm such a picky eater that if I had to eat like weird exotic stuff, I wouldn't be able to do it. But I'm eating things I would normally eat. No exercise, eating regular foods, and I'm not taking any prescription medications. People ask me, are you on Ozempic? No, I'm not. I'm not doing that either. So call Coastal Weight Loss Secret and lose the weight. You know, the biggest change I've noticed, other than I had to change the hole I'm using on my watch band yesterday. Again, I've had to add holes to my belt. Some of my clothes don't fit me anymore. Yeah, I know. And I bought some clothes months ago for the cruise, and they're just too big now, But yeah, and that's an awesome thing. And what I've noticed most about it, other than that I can look down and my belly's gone because I lost the weight where I wanted to lose it in my stomach and in my waist, which is awesome, and in my legs. But I have more energy. I feel better, and I have more energy than I've had in years. And the weight that I'm at now is the weight I was when my daughter was born. And today is my daughter's 26th birthday. So this is what I weighed 26 years ago, what I weigh right now. Isn't that something? It's amazing. Give Coastal Weight Loss Secret a call, 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. We'll be right back. We'll be back on the air shortly, guys. If you're new, my name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We're in a radio station break right now, and if you're new, subscribe. And just so you know, the calls that I'm getting, some of these are calls from the radio, some from YouTube, some on iHeartRadio, other platforms we're on. All the calls are 100% unvetted. So what happens when you call, the number to call in is pinned in the live chat. When you call in, I just put you on hold. I've got a phone right here. I just put you on hold. No one answers the phone. I don't know who you are or what you're going to talk about until I take your call on the air. So the calls are 100% unvetted. Nobody else does that except me. And it makes the show more interesting. So all of you keyboard warrior trolls, now you can't use profanity because we're on the radio. But other than that, call in. We'll be glad to talk to you. We'll be back in less than a minute, guys. If you're on hold, hang in there. My daughter's birthday is today, 26. Yeah. So, but with the time change, I have to call her a little late in the day. There we go. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to The Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. We'll go back to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello?
Yeah. You turn down the volume in the background if you don't mind. Yeah, turn down the volume in the background if you don't mind. Whatever you're listening to in the back, turn it down. Oh, my goodness. All right. You going to turn it down or not?
Am I on?
You're on, but
Brian?
turn down the volume.
Okay,
turn
it's
turn
Michael from Palm Beach Gardens.
Michael,
You
turn
mentioned
down turn down the volume in the background of whatever you got on. You got to turn that down. It's hard to hear you with
Okay.
that going on in the background. So
Hang
mute.
on.
Yeah, well, hang on. That's cool.
Hold on.
We're laid back. He's got to go in the other room.
Hang on.
There's a lot of build up to this call. I hope it's good.
Hold on.
The suspense. Yeah, our number's toll free, by the way. 888.
Hold on.
Yeah, we're holding
Get
on.
to the radio.
All right, we're holding on. Yeah, that's me in the background. You got it on the right radio station. That's right.
I'm going to do it right now.
Okay.
Do it right now. Hold on.
That's me.
Hang on.
Hear that? That's me. I'm on the radio. Hear me in the background?
Hold on.
Now we're going to get the echo because of the delay.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. Oh, my goodness. Lots of build-up for this call. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, Michael from Palm Beach Gardens.
Hey.
You know, there's a book called Rush to Judgment by Mark Lane regarding the Kennedy assassination.
Yes.
It's been indicated that there was a CIA agent on the grassy knoll in Ideally Plaza who shot Kennedy, and Kennedy fell backwards. He didn't fall. If Oswald would have shot him, he would have fallen forward because he was behind him. So that's the indicator. That Warren Commission was a farce. And so Mark Lane wrote this book, Rush to Judgment. And it's a very interesting commentary regarding the Kennedy assassination. By the way, I will see you on the cruise, my buddy.
Oh, good. You know, this Mark, I look forward to it. Have you checked in already?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm
good.
all set with that. Yes,
Good.
Thank you for that indication. That's important. Yes.
You know, the thing about Mark, I'm very familiar with Mark Lane. I don't know if he's still alive or not, but these files that came out yesterday are filled with revelations already. And I was talking about this at the top of the show at 6. You got to understand something. The suspicion of government that we all have, that didn't exist in the country in 1963. It wasn't until years later that started happening. And people that were interviewed in the very beginning, right after, and we're seeing that in these new files that were dropped yesterday, the common theme in everything that we've seen so far is CIA's in everything. Okay, in these files. So the CIA killed Kennedy. We know they killed Bobby. Bobby Kennedy says so. Bobby Kennedy was shot in the back. He was shot dead in the back by his own security guard, who was a CIA guy. You know, and the same people.
Not Sirhan.
No. In fact, Bobby Kennedy recently gave a detailed interview about this within the last couple of months. And Sirhan, there were a bunch of guys there that jumped on him and pushed him backwards. And he was on his back on a table or some chairs, and his gun was facing up. And Bobby was shot from behind. I never knew this. He was shot from behind. I never knew this until recently. And it was his own bodyguard, who was a CIA guy. And these files that have come out, everything says CIA, and it's filled with new names that the CIA or the JFK historians will be investigating. So this was huge yesterday.
By the way, there's a book called Johnny, We Hardly Knew You. It's about Kennedy and Johnson. Johnson was the Senate Majority Leader at the time. And they all claim that he picked Johnson to carry the South, and it's not true. They did not like each other, and he put him on the ticket so they didn't have to battle with him in the Senate. That's what I was made to understand.
Yeah. Actually, who was it that said, Roger Stone. Roger Stone said that he and Johnson, this was Roger Stone, who's a very credible person. We all trust Roger Stone, and he worked with and knew Nixon. Roger Stone said that President Nixon told him he and Lyndon Johnson both wanted to be president. The only difference was he wasn't willing to kill someone to do it. I mean, that's Nixon. Yeah, and that's something. And and of course, President Ford was on the Warren Commission, and he was rewarded for his cover-up by becoming president when the deep state unseated Richard Nixon and Spiro Agnew.
Right.
So yeah, so don't let anyone tell you that these files are old and there's nothing new. No, it is huge. It came out yesterday in these files as well, in multiple reports, that Lee Harvey Oswald was not a good shot. This idea that he was some Marine sharpshooter is an urban legend. And there were witnesses at the time who said that they saw Jack Ruby and Oswald in a nightclub at the same time, obviously before the assassination. So there was a lot came out yesterday. Hey, I look forward to seeing you on the cruise.
Yes, look forward to seeing you as well. And I got the angel water, by the way. It's great stuff.
Oh, great. I know. I'm going to get a glass of angel water in just a few minutes when I'm done with my coffee. All right, take care, man. Take care. We'll see you on the cruise. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, it's Patty from New Jersey. How are you this morning?
All right, Patty. What's on your mind?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's on your mind, Patty?
Well, I just wanted to call and respond to your other caller there that was talking about the locker rooms and the transgender thing.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, my son was in the 5th grade, and they used to take the kids to the high school for swimming lessons. And the teacher, my son was in the back of the car with his friends. We were going bowling or something, and they were all giggling about things. And when I questioned them on it, they were talking about the teacher strutting around the locker room with the boys completely naked. He showered with them and everything else. And I made a big deal of it. And I went to the school and said, look, I am not okay with a full-grown man exposing himself to my child who's in the 5th grade.
5th grade?
As it turned out, yeah, 5th grade they were in. And these kids were, like, giggling about it. They were too young to understand what it was. And so anyway, we wound up, I sold my house and I moved away because I didn't want my son in that school because basically they targeted him. He was constantly getting in trouble. They were making him stay in at lunch, and they were, they wanted him to go to the rest of the swimming lessons, but they weren't going to let him in the pool.
Well,
And I was like, no, we're not doing that.
when I was in the 7th grade, this was here in Florida. Some of you may be surprised. I went to school for part of the 7th grade in one of the worst towns in the entire state of Florida. Can't be the worst because the worst is Belle Glade, but right around the lake. I went to school in a little tiny town called Moorhaven. Anyone familiar with Moorhaven? It's in Glades County here in Florida. And we had to dress out and shower and everything else for PE. And that's 7th grade. So 7th grade, I'm guessing, is 12. Is that 12? And
Yeah, probably
and
right around
what
there,
happened? What happened with my PE teacher? I mean, at the time we just thought he was a jerk, but now I know he was a creep. And I don't, not only did you have to dress out, but you had to shower after. And we're a bunch of 12-year-old boys, right? And the gym teacher would actually come into the shower, because it was a big group shower, with his grade book.
Right.
And watch us all naked. And if you did not shower, your grade went down in a complete letter grade. If you didn't shower once for that semester, a letter grade. So if you didn't shower a few times, you got an F. And he would stand there with his grade book in the shower and watch us. And at the time, you're a kid, and we didn't have all this. I don't know what year that was. 83. I was 12. So we didn't have all this. There weren't open gay people and all that stuff going on then. So we didn't know, and we're kids. Nobody said anything. But the guy obviously has got some problems, and God only knows what he did in his life. I don't remember his name, but it was such a small town. It was a junior high and high school. 7th through 12th in the
Right,
same
that's
school.
What we had 7 through 12
And
here.
that's
what we had.
that's somebody that I would want to look into. I mean, that was really creepy.
Yeah. Well, as it went on, we sold our house and we moved away because of that specific reason. And 4 years later, he was fired for misbehaving with like other girls, like younger girls, and he was fired. And now we're going through an issue where the bus driver is a transgender and is insisting on being called like whatever the pronoun is. My son won't allow his kids on the school bus with this person, and he's fighting in the state of New Jersey right now. You're basically taking 50 children and putting them on a huge piece of equipment and trusting your child to that person. And, it is considered a mental illness, and, should that person be driving a school bus? And, he basically went to the school board meeting and said, look, I had this instance.
Well, listen, I'm late. I got to run. I'm late for the break.
Okay,
but these things that used to be perversions are now being accepted.
Now acceptable.
And it's
bad.
and this is the stuff that the Christian Coalition and Pat Robertson used to talk about in the early 90s. And honestly, I thought they were crazy because I never thought such extreme things that we're now living through would become normalized. It seems so crazy and extreme,
Right. Well,
but they were futurist. I got to run. I'm very late for the break, but I appreciate the call. We'll be right back.
I'm just popping on. And, to be honest, I'm not even sure why I'm popping on right now. Hey, everybody. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining. I mean, hey, everyone. I'm just...
Okay. We'll be back in about a minute. If you'd like to call in, please do. It's a toll-free call. The number's pinned in the live chat. I want to play this little bit with Gavin and Tim Walls. because now the Democrats, they're starting to let us know what they're going to do. I'm going to make a prediction. Mark Lane died in 2016, so I guess I can't book him on the show. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. So I'm going to make a prediction here that the Democrats are regrouping, and I'll make it in just a moment, but I want to play this clip. The prediction is going to be about the Democrats and their plans. Gavin Newsom, I've been giving him a lot of PR for his podcast, I know, but see, Gavin Newsom's podcast, the reason I'm monitoring it, I wouldn't call what I'm doing listening to it. I'm monitoring it because they're revealing their entire strategy for the next presidential campaign, and it's almost like we're spies, right? But anyway, this is Gavin Newsom. His most recent guest was his first Democrat, Tim Walz, who probably is a Chinese spy. But anyway, this is Gavin Newsom with Tim Walz. Okay, now, the Southern strategy, I'm not going to go through the welfare queen, the Southern strategy is one of the biggest lies they talk about. The Southern strategy was the 1968 presidential campaign, and they're referring to Richard Nixon as if he went and got all the racist voters to vote for him in the South. What the Southern strategy was going through the coastal regions of what's called the Sun Belt, the coastal outer regions from Florida all the way to through Texas and California. And the Southern strategy, Nixon lost the South, in 1968. He won the presidency but lost the South. So they imply that he won. Let me play just a little bit more of it, though. This is Tim Walz with Gavin Newsom on Gavin's latest podcast episode. What is, I know what some of these things are. DEI, CRT's critical race theory. What is ESG? He says CRT, that's critical race. What is ESG? DEI, we know what that is, didn't earn it, but what is ESG? Is that thing that people say they can't have when they go to Chinese restaurants? What is ESG? I don't know what that one is. Okay, so if anybody knows what ESG is, I know it's MSG. That's called a joke. Okay, a little humor. Oh my gosh, people think I actually thought ESG was MSG. I know. Okay, it's called a joke. ESG. I have no idea what ESG is. Okay, this is there's talk today that AOC, they're talking about making her the face of the party. I was talking about this earlier in the show. I'm going to make the prediction right now. The Democrats are planning on running Gavin Newsom and AOC in 2028. Let's hope so. Gavin Newsom, because they figure she's got New York. They very well may make her the senator by then from New York, because they're really pushing hard to get rid of this crusty old fossil they have. So they're moving to have Gavin Newsom at the top of the ticket and AOC at the bottom. That's what they're moving towards. And they've convinced themselves that this guy from California and this Democratic Socialist, that's what America wants. I hope that's who they run against J.D. Vance and, I don't know, Marco? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Joanne from Pamela.
Hey, Joanne.
Good morning, Brian. ESG, I don't know what the initials stand for, but that's where the government tells your IRA or your annuity or your wherever you have money, they tell these companies that they have to invest in DEI and all these other things. So your retirement account has to put a certain amount towards these government programs.
Oh, that's what ESG is. Government programs. Government
retirement account.
Oh, okay.
They usually lose money.
Okay. All right. That's what
ESG is.
Okay. All right. Appreciate the call. All right. Maybe. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yo, it's Sean from Westlake Worth. What are you doing, Brian?
Hey, what's up, Sean?
Yo, ESG is environmental and social governance. It's
Oh,
a
my.
score that was given to you by BlackRock and
Oh.
these other hedge funds. If you wanted to lend money, you had to have a good ESG score. So that's what it is.
What's it
It's
stand
along
for
the
again?
same
Wait.
lines as
What's it stand for again?
Environmental and social governance.
Oh my goodness. No wonder they use
sir.
no wonder they say ESG. Nobody wants that.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness.
No, sir.
That sounds like
Anyway,
communism.
I'll talk to you. I'll listen off air.
All right.
Yes?
You know, that sounds like what they do in China, those social scores that people have. Oh my goodness. Pretty crazy stuff, huh? Now, I want to tell you guys about Jupiter Joe Thomas. I know this, that no matter what goes on in the economy, if eggs cost $50 a dozen, if the stock market tanks and there's a Great Depression, neither of those things are going to happen. But if they did, in the worst case scenario, if your money is in an annuity, you got nothing to worry about because your nest egg is always safe. Stop risking your retirement. You know, when you're young, you can play around with investments in the stock market. You lose, you're still in the workforce. You're making more money, you can replace it. But when you're retired, that's it. You're not in the workforce anymore. You don't want to risk your retirement. You know what? You don't have to. You can have a no-risk retirement plan where there's no fear of loss from the stock market. There's no risk of outliving your money. And you're also guaranteed income for the rest of your life. That's amazing. Give Jupiter Joe Thomas a call. Joe Thomas is offering free phone consultations, which you can take advantage of no matter where you're located. His number is 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. 561-743-0999. And online, jupiterjoe.com. You can find his number there too, jupiterjoe.com. We'll take our last break of the second hour and be right back. I'm talking with I'm texting with Ian, our travel agent. One suite has opened up. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. Before we get back to the issues, I was just texting during the break with our travel agent, Ian, from Cruise and Travel Depot, and we leave a week from Sunday, and a couple things, including a big announcement, okay, for those of you that are not already booked. Those of you that are booked, if you've not pre-checked in, do it today. If you don't know how to do it or have any questions, call Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot. He'll help you. And I thought early check-in was just to make things smoother for you when you get to the port so you board faster, and it does do that. But the bigger function is this. If there's any mistake on your reservation, which could be one digit off on your passport number, or maybe there's a misspelling with your name or something, this is the time to correct it. If you get to the port and there's a problem like that, you may not be able to board, okay? So that's why you check in early. You can do your pre-check-in on the Celebrity app if you have it, but if you have any questions or don't know how to do it, or call Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot and he'll walk you through it. Okay, now this is, I was just texting with Ian during the break. Our cruise sold out months ago. There is a suite that has just become available. This is going to be gone later this morning. It's a suite. It is available. It is available now. I'm going to give you Ian from Cruise and Travel Depots. I'm going to give you his number right now. If you're interested, call now because this is going to fill up. I'm here to tell you, it's going to be booked this morning. It will not last. It's a suite. And when you have a suite, you have a special area that you have access to that has all kinds of luxury kind of things that will blow your mind. So this is the first opening we've had on our ship in weeks and weeks. This is Ian's number, 561-244-5779. 561-244-5779. 561-244-5779. Give him a call right now. That's going to disappear. And you'll be able to get him on the line right now. Okay, so this AOC Gavin Newsom ticket is most definitely what their plan is. And this is why they're pushing Schumer out so quick. Okay? They want her to be in the Senate. So their plan is to get her in the Senate, replace Schumer, and then run her with Gavin Newsom. And Schumer, who did a lot of damage to himself supporting the continuing resolution. He went on The View yesterday and just lost it. Listen, I'll just play a little bit of it. Okay, so this whole thing that he's doing, where he's trying to sound like some radical liberal who wants to take everyone's money. Meanwhile, you know, he goes on to say that the Republicans are all about the rich. Here's a man that's worth $80 million and has only worked for the government his entire life. Okay, but he's talking about the Republicans represent the rich. Come on. So that's the move. That's the plan. Get Schumer out, AOC in the Senate, run her as the running mate with Gavin Newsom. That's the plan. And I'll tell you, when those of you that have been listening to me for a while, when AOC first got elected to the House, I told you she's being groomed to run for president. And people laughed at me, sometimes on the phones here. And I said, listen, I'm not saying she's going to win or be president, but we're talking about Democrats, and they see her as the future. This is one of the reasons Jasmine Crockett has been become the face of their party all over television, where AOC used to be, because she sounds nuts, Jasmine Crockett, and they're trying to make AOC sound more normal and more acceptable, and Jasmine Crockett looks like the radical lunatic idiot. So that's what's going on. I can't think of a better ticket for JD to have to run against. A couple other things, and then after the top, I'll recap a little bit maybe on the JFK files. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about SpaceX if you'd like. But there's some other stories I want to talk about, but I don't want to bring up any of those until after the top of the hour break, okay? Because there were some big happenings yesterday that I want to cover that I have not touched on yet. But there's been a couple of happenings inside the world of conservative media that I want to talk about. One of them is they named the replacement to Bongino, who started yesterday, some guy named Vince. He calls his show The Vince Show. He's vaguely familiar. I've seen him somewhere before. I listened to some of his debut, and he did a full interview with Tucker Carlson. Now, I like Tucker, don't get me wrong, but it was a very, in fact, there's a clip that you may have heard that Tucker Carlson is predicting that J.D. Vance is going to be our nominee. That's from that interview. What a weakling they replaced Bongino with. This guy, Vince, the Vince Show. He is so weak. I read the release on it. They said, I guess he was a regular guest with Bongino, so some of you may be familiar with him. I was not impressed with what I heard, and Dan Bongino was reported yesterday was making $5 million a year that he walked away from to take this job that is a very important job. So any concerns that you may have that Dan Bongino isn't all about business and isn't out about bringing these lawfare people to justice, he walked away from $5 million a year to do it. Okay, so he's very serious about doing it. But this guy they replaced him with works for Bongino's production company. So they're trying to keep the company afloat with this guy as their employee. He is so weak. And I'll tell you, there were people who multiple people reached out to me to represent me, to pitch me to be the Bongino replacement, both on the podcast and the radio. Obviously, they didn't pick me, which was a very big mistake on their part. And it would have been perfect because I would have done the podcast and the national radio show from our True Oldies radio studios, which are state-of-the-art in Palm Beach Gardens, and it would have been spectacular. But this guy that they picked to replace him with, this was decided before we knew that Bongino was leaving the show, okay? I mean, it just wasn't in the cards for them to... They wanted to bring somebody in that they had under them and working for them already, because they're trying to keep the business afloat because it makes so much money. It's very, very weak with this guy. Very, very weak replacement. Not just because it's not me. It should have been me. And if they would have hired me, and I was doing the show from the True Oldie studio, in the markets we went up against Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, we would have beat them. I'm telling you. But whatever. They didn't pick me, so that's the way it is. They picked. The guy, nothing against the guy, but he's not a host. He's a guest. Not much of a he's a second banana guy maybe, but I would think more like maybe an occasional guest. So that's what they've picked. But a lot of times I remember Neil Rogers, the great late Neil Rogers, would never let anyone good fill in for him when he was on vacation, and he had a deal where he was off every summer. Remember that? And the reason he wouldn't have anyone good fill in for him when he was off is because he was afraid the audience would like them and they would replace him. He was very insecure. But I was very unimpressed. In his first show to do an interview, nothing against Tucker. I like Tucker, but Tucker Carlson isn't involved in anything that's interesting or really newsworthy right now. So it sounded more like killing time than a debut program, in my opinion. And I only listened to it because I wanted to hear the guy's first show. And other industry news, Ben Shapiro's The Daily Wire is in collapse mode. Jeremy Boring, who's the CEO of the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro's partner that founded the Daily Wire, was fired yesterday. Now, they don't say fired. They say he stepped down and he is going to do some things on the entertainment side of the Daily Wire. That's a bunch of nonsense. They fired him. And what happened is they lost two heavy hitters. It's all about the money. When they fired Candace Owens, they took a big hit at the Daily Wire, a big hit. And a lot of what they do is based on a subscription model, people subscribing to the Daily Wire to get all their content. They lost a lot of viewers and subscribers with Candace Owens, but they got through it because when Candace Owens left, she started this bizarre anti-Israel thing. And even though they lost a lot of people could say, well, we understand, she's an anti-Semite. But then, and this was shocking not just to me, but I think most people that follow these things, they let Brett Cooper go. And Brett Cooper, a lot of you may be saying who, and I can understand. She was so much bigger than I imagined. I didn't think too much of her. She was huge. And the first blow to the Daily Wire was Candace's firing. The second blow, they just can't survive it, was Brett Cooper. Mass exodus, and there was a disaster around that. And I knew something was going on because Ben Shapiro and Jeremy Boring and some others from the Daily Wire were in the audience gallery at the State of the Union with the president the other day, last week. And I knew right away when I saw that. They must have donated money to some congressman to get in there. And they wanted to be there so they could look like they were players and important in the mix. And they had a session at CPAC on stage, which was very strange, and I figured that was a paid thing that they did too. And I sensed some desperation, and it looks like there's been such an exodus of subscribers and viewers to the Daily Wire that they got rid of Jeremy Boring. And what the future of Ben Shapiro will be is really up in the air, because Ben Shapiro's popularity is based on the Daily Wire having spent millions of dollars advertising his program, which gets it served up to everyone on their podcast feeds and YouTube feeds and Facebook groups and everything. And now that they're not doing that as much, and they don't have the money they once had to do that kind of marketing or the love for Ben Shapiro that Boring had, Ben Shapiro, we very well could see start to crater too. So, and they're never Trumpers. They're not, that's part of the problem too, on top of the things they've done, they're never Trumpers. And people don't want to hear never Trumpers. All right, we'll be back right after this. There's a clip I'm looking for that I wanted to play that I can't find. We're almost back and I'm still looking for it. Welcome back, everyone. The third hour has begun. My name is Brian Craig. Our number toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 1-888-465-2631. There's a pretty dramatic video that's circulating online, and I imagine it'll make it on television today, at least on some televisions, on some news. And it's a major ICE arrest of the Venezuelan gang members where they had to break the windows. And let me play some of the audio, which is insane. Listen. And Mike, we got to stand by on the dump button. I did listen to this morning before I went on the air. I think the language is okay, but we got to be careful on it. See, they just, the ICE, that noise you heard is ICE breaking the window of the car where these illegal Venezuelan gang members are inside. Okay, I don't want to play anymore because I don't know what the language is gonna have. But they, you hear them? These are the Venezuelan gang members. They have their iPhones out. They're pointing to the ICE officers, and these are Tom Holman's special team that had to break the windows to get in, and they're like, "You can't. We're filming you. You can't. Why are you doing this?" This is, if you remember, about 2-3 weeks ago, AOC and other Democrats were instructing the illegals to respond just like this. That when these ICE agents come to you, they don't have a right. Stand your ground, stay inside, lock yourself inside, and resist. Right? That's what they've been told to do by members of the United States Congress. And I've got news for you. America's back in President Trump's second term, and the presidency of the United States has tremendous amounts of power. And for all of these people on the left, I was talking earlier about these poll numbers. The Democrats have these incredibly low poll numbers, and they're trying, why are we so unpopular? You know, in that interview on The View yesterday, Schumer went on to talk about how, today's a day of action, and we're going to be at every Medicare office and every Social Security office, and voices will be heard. They've got that old playbook that Rush talked about. And then he says, then Trump's numbers will start to fall. No, the American people support this. I heard one guy on one of the news stations say, we're not at war with Venezuela. How can this 1798 Alien Enemy Act work? We are being invaded. We are being invaded by these other countries. And yesterday, our Florida's own Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said, Venezuela, there's no debate. They're going to take these people back. Or there will be big-time economic consequences, and there will be. This country is being invaded, and the actions of President Trump are popular. These liberal wackadoodle ideas, whether it's DEI, CSG, we were talking about earlier, whatever that was, ESG, and the illegals being here and getting set up, that's not a popular position. The left made people think it was. And the American people have always been on the side of Trump on all these issues that he supports. They really have been. But a lot of people were intimidated to not be vocal about it because they thought that this left-wing ideology was the way to be. You know, like someone told me yesterday that season 2 of The Apprentice is now on Amazon Prime. I don't know. I've been watching season 1 with Omarosa, and look at Bezos, one of the big tech giants. Boom. Not only met with Trump, made a documentary deal with Melania, and now he's putting The Apprentice on Amazon. You know, you're seeing these kind of actions all over the place because a lot of people that are corporate leaders, even Tim Cook at Apple, big investment in the United States, they thought that most people thought like these idiots like AOC and Gavin Newsom. So they went along because, you know, for the most part, people that are big-time business people, the Tim Cook, Bezos level, everybody has opinions on things, but companies themselves usually are politically neutral. But the left were so powerful in their harassment of these people, they've intimidated them into doing these left-wing wackadoodle things. You know, like this new Snow White as an example that everyone's talking about, being woke and everything. The thing with the new Snow White is this was a movie that was made for a woke America, not Trump's America that we all realize we're in. And the reason this movie is going to fail is not whether or not it's good or bad. I saw a couple clips. It looked like the original cartoon, what I saw. I just saw a couple clips. The singing seems okay, you know. But the controversy is they've done away with the prince being the hero. The girl that plays Snow White is a man-hater who's been very vocal. She wanted to take the prince completely out of the movie, she said. Plus, she's supporting the Iranian-backed Hamas terrorist while she's co-starring with Gal Gadot, who's Israeli and, of course, is on the right side of that issue. And that was just a movie that was made for a different country than we're in right now. And what's happened here with President Trump, this is going to go beyond Trump. When Trump's second term is over, which oh boy, I hate to even think about that, but it'll be over before we know it, unfortunately. But the country has changed. And, you know, as an example, these Tesla terrorist attacks, you know, you saw this fire at the Tesla dealership in Las Vegas. And the liberals they're calling it a protest. Lighting brand new cars on fire at a dealership. And if you've seen the fire, I've seen regular car fires on the street a few times in my life. Have any of you seen a regular car, like a gasoline-powered car, like a normal car, a real car on fire? It's a big fire and it's hot, but it burns quick, doesn't it? When a car catches fire, the flames are huge and it burns out quick. I was watching this domestic terrorist act in Las Vegas with the Molotov cocktails on the Teslas at the dealership. I was watching that yesterday. Those fires don't burn out on these EVs. These Tesla fires are huge fires, and then they get bigger and bigger. The couple of times I've seen car fires, it's usually an oil leak. You know, and I'm sure some of you have seen them too. And they're bad, but they burn quick, and they really burn themselves out to a certain extent. But these Teslas, when they're lit on fire, the fires are getting bigger and hotter, and the fuel source makes them hotter. And there's even like explosions in them. And you watch the news, and they call them protest. This is not protest. This is domestic terrorism. And we've gotten to the point now with these attacks on Tesla. Now, there's the random lunatic that sprays graffiti. I saw one guy, a black Tesla Cybertruck owner, and he put a video up on social media, his Cybertruck, and the Cybertruck start at $100,000. So they're very expensive vehicles, okay? He had his Cybertruck parked somewhere. He comes out, it was graffitied all over with weird stuff. and most of these Tesla owners are Democrats, right? There are random lunatics that are vandalizing Teslas, no doubt. But this nationwide attack on the dealers with Molotov cocktails, that's an organization. I believe that there is an organization behind these Tesla attacks. And it's crazy how they feel so justified in doing it. Elon was on Fox last night talking about it. And he said he's never seen anything like it. Not only have I not seen anything like this, these Tesla attacks and these Tesla domestic terrorism acts, I've never seen instances like this of political terror where the Democrats support it. This is Elon Musk on Fox yesterday about it. Mm. He's on Hannity last night. Okay? Yeah, and because Elon is new to the world of being a conservative, a lot of this is new to him, as brilliant as he is, because he used to be friends with these people, but they are nutcases. They are insane nutcases and these are the people that were running the country just a couple of months ago. And they thought they were going to be running it forever. And when he's talking about what I was telling you, there's an organization behind this. This is domestic terrorism. And I heard some people, they're trying to explain it away, comparing it to January 6th. I didn't see anyone with Molotov cocktails firebombing things on January 6th. That was nonviolent, except for Ashley Babbitt, who was murdered by that cop. All right, let's take our first break of the third hour. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631, 1-888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you are listening. We'll be right back. We'll be back in about 30 seconds, guys. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you'd like to call in, the number is pinned in the chat. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on this Wednesday, March 19th, 2025. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number toll-free, 1-888-465-2631, 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening. So President Trump had a very long phone conversation with Putin yesterday, and in the Oval Office with him was J.D. Vance and Secretary of State, Florida's own Marco Rubio, and it was incredibly productive. He agreed to the limited ceasefire on energy production and civilian targets, and the full ceasefires coming soon. And the discussion that means the power plants, okay, and there was some really amazing ground. And Zelensky came out after and tried to stop the whole thing. Here's a guy whose country is on the verge of complete collapse, and he's still trying to keep this war going. What a psychopath. And Zelensky said that Europe has to be involved in these peace talks. No, they don't. We've got the two players talking already, President Trump and Putin. And it looks like they very well may have a summit meeting, maybe in Saudi Arabia together. I don't know, but they should have a summit meeting. And the discussion was very, very productive. Not just ending the war in Ukraine, but also the future of our civilization, which I'll tell you about in just a moment. But first, I want to ask you this: are you in pain? Why? Why have you not gone to see Dr. Philip Appleton and taken advantage of his laser away pain treatment? You know, pain is not just a part of growing older. I thought it was. And I live a pain-free life now, without drugs, without shots. Yeah, I've known people that get those shots every once in a while. I don't know, what are those pain shots they get every once in a while? Every few months? None of that stuff. Who wants to go get those huge injections all the time? Or take pain medications? Or worse, even living in pain. You don't have to. You know, with Dr. Appleton's laser away pain treatment, there's no drugs, no shots, no injections, no downtime, no appointment needed, even on Saturdays. Completely painless. You don't even feel the treatment when it's happening. And the best part, it works on every type of pain I've ever heard of. Arthritis, bronchial neuralgia, bursitis, hip pain, knee pain, lumbar pain, muscular contraction, sciatica, strains and sprains, tinnitus, tennis elbow, neck pain, stenosis. The list goes on. This is a very incomplete list. If you're in pain, you don't have to be. Go see Dr. Appleton. If you have x-rays or some other scans, bring them with you. He'll gladly look over them. And it's a free consultation with Dr. Appleton. Give him a call, 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. That's 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. That's AppletonCairo.com. Give Dr. Appleton a call and say bye-bye to your pain. So here's the thing with this conversation with President Trump and Putin yesterday was talking about the future of our country. And what part of what they talked about yesterday, which I thought was just fantastic, was about Russia becoming our ally and dropping Iran. Right now, Russia and Iran are allied together. Their militaries even do exercises together, including at sea. And that's bad news because Iran's bad news. Iran has always been bad news my whole life since they took the hostages in '79, and probably was a problem even before that. Okay? But being friends with Russia, being allied with Russia, having a new alliance. You know, when J.D. Vance was speaking a couple weeks back in Munich and to the NATO countries, he says, what is our alliance about now? What are we allied for? What are our common goals? That's right. What do we have in common with these NATO countries right now? What do we want and what do they want? And think about how great things would be in the world with Russia as our friend and ally. You know, when the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union collapsed, we started to become very good friends with Russia, and then things went south. In fact, when Bill Clinton was president, Putin wanted to join NATO. Bill Clinton wanted him to join NATO. Remember, Putin talked to Tucker Carlson about this during that interview. And then the powers that be got to Bill Clinton and wouldn't let it happen. See, you know, Europe is a very insignificant place. It's a collection of tiny little countries that are nothing more than tourist traps that mean nothing, and they're no longer players in the world and haven't been for a long time. And they operate like Democrats. They cause problems, and they cause problems because in the chaos, they feel relevancy and control. That's what the Democrats do. That's why the Democrats don't like this country united. They're always trying to divide us with BLM or some other group. Because when the country's united, we're in a period right now, the golden age in Trump's second term. If Russia and the United States were allied, think about how powerful that would be. Iran would be out of business. They're barely being kept going now because of, in large part, Russia. And look at China. China is a definite enemy of ours. China would fade away if we were allied with Russia. And this is what President Trump was talking with Putin about. And for all of you out there that think we're enemies with Russia, you know that SpaceX capsule that splashed down in the Gulf of America yesterday, first astronauts to splash down in the Gulf of America, and it was nice to hear it referred to as the Gulf of America by NASA. When I was watching the coverage yesterday, a Russian got off that American spacecraft, and a Russian went up on the other American spacecraft on the way there. There's no reason we should be enemies with these people. But Europe wants us to be at each other's throats because they become more irrelevant if the United States and Russia are partners. And that's was a great conversation. And that conversation is going to lead to more than just ending the war in Ukraine. It's going to end into a golden age, not just for this country, but elsewhere. I thought it was amazing. And I really hope that President Trump has a very high-profile summit meeting with Putin, because they'll come out of that with a massive agreement. See, Putin will be willing to make a lot of concessions on Ukraine in exchange for an alliance with the United States, which would benefit them in so many ways. And I'm excited about it. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian, Vincent Wellington.
Hey, what's up, Wellington?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on the Russia part. For sure, our country has been stronger when we had better relationships with Russia than before with the Cold War and everything else. Mm-hmm. And we cut them off in a lot of ways economically during the Cold War. But with the way that England has been able to, and I guess the whole European Union at this point, has been able to wield so much power, and they're militarily, obsolete at this point. Most of their military is smaller than, Australia's. So the way I see it is that we're supplying them with protection, and they're not supplying us with anything that's American.
Well, I was talking a couple weeks ago. I was shocked to learn the British Navy has more admirals than they have combat vessels in their Navy. That's right. Not a joke. What Europe is, England in particular, they manipulate us because our deep state and Democrats are in bed with them. The Russian dossier about Trump, manufactured by the British. The false intelligence about WMDs in Iraq, British intelligence gave us that lie. And the way, so not only negatives, only death comes from Europe.
Right, and a lot of people are upset with Israel, whether it be left or right. But really, we ran away from England for a reason. We left that place for a reason to come to America, regardless of what the putrid pieces of it were and why people left, whether it was religious or not. The people didn't want to be there because of the monarchy.
That's right.
And the monarchy still has power 250 years later. Let's just think about that. And how do they have power? They have power because of places like Canada, where they're able to influence America.
Well, let me give you an
And then
example.
they have
England and their intelligence service have so much influence here. People don't know. I give you an example. Bill Clinton and Mayor Pete, both Oxford Rhodes Scholars. Jessica Tarloff on the Five. She went to college at the London School of Economics, and that sounds like a CIA place to me. Why would an American girl be going to school over there? Listen, I'm up against the bottom of the hour break, but you made some good points.
Yep.
Thanks for the call. All right, take care. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show. We'll be right back. Right. If you're on hold, hang in there. Less than a minute. We'll be back, guys. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. I brought up a lot today. You're welcome to call in about any and everything I brought up so far. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hello, this is Brian from Coral Springs.
Hey, Brian, what's up?
Not much. 2 items regarding Russia. During the Cold War and afterwards, they were already in business relationships in the U.S. because at that time we were basing our military technology using titanium, and Russia is the largest supplier in the world of titanium.
Mm-hmm.
The second item is that Russia has broken every treaty they've ever had with any country in the world except one, and that was during World War II with the Nazis when they broke the treaty first. So to try to expect the Putin to do any kind of alliance with us and honor it is unrealistic.
So what do you suggest we do?
We have to start dictating the fact that Russia cannot just arbitrarily start taking countries, which
let me ask you, Brian. Brian, how old are you?
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 66.
Okay. See, here's the thing. You're older than me by quite a bit. See, you grew up. I grew up during the Cold War too, but you were even younger and spent more of your life during the Cold War. There was so much brainwashing going on about the Ruskies and the domino theory and all this crap. Okay? And that's just ingrained in your bones. You know, that's why Steve Kane and I disagree about it a lot. You've just been brainwashed so much about distrusting Russia that I don't think you can see things clearly today.
Well, I see in the perspective of a former military person who dealt with classified information intelligence and know a lot of facts that other people do not. And like I said, Russia, the people themselves are great, but their leadership, it's a dictatorship that wants control of everything else. And
but you say dictatorship. There's 2 countries right now that
is a dictator.
There's 2 countries right now that are that have dictators leading them. Okay, one is Ukraine. Zelensky is a dictator, right? You agree with that?
No, he's not.
Zelensky
was an elected president.
His term is over.
Forced into a war-torn situation.
So what?
He's already offered to drop down or resign if he can get a peace treaty done.
Which he fights it. So his term is up. He's still in office, even though his term's expired. He's outlawed opposition political parties. He's outlawed freedom of the press and religion. That sounds like a dictatorship to me.
But how can he hold a general and free election when he's in the middle of war?
The same way President Lincoln did during the Civil War. You know, during the Civil War, it was the Democrat insurrection, right? It was a Democrat insurrection against the federal government, and they put up a candidate in 1864, and he ran against them. Okay? We had elections during the Civil War and the Second World War. Every war we've been in, we've had elections. We didn't. In the Civil War, we almost lost the whole country, and we still had an election.
All right. Well,
I'll tell you. And there's another country.
There's
another country. I know you'd like to run away from that. There's another country that has a dictatorship. I'd like you to explain this. Canada. They have a new prime minister, Connie. When was the election?
Their government structure is completely different than ours.
Yeah, well, so's Russia's, okay? So that I would consider that to be a dictatorship too.
Venezuela and a variety of others.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you another one. During the Second World. Oh yeah, he wants to run. I'll give you someone that you like. You like Winston Churchill. You respect Winston Churchill.
During the time of war, he was the viable leader.
See, you know what I'm talking about. Winston Churchill suspended elections during the Second World War, and we were allied with him to victory. Okay? So we have a history of partnering with dictatorships, but there are dictatorships out there today.
There's a big difference between being at war from a distance away and being at war where people are bombing you every single day.
Kiev looks all right to me. I see Kiev on TV. I don't see any potholes or bomb holes. And I've been telling people to go check out Pablo from Ukraine. He's a 20-something YouTuber, and he makes YouTube videos in Ukraine. He's not in the military, and I never see any war action. Life seems good for Pablo in Ukraine.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, well, I thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
All right, I hope you stood up stronger when you were in the service than you did with me in a political duel. My goodness. Propaganda right there, man. Propaganda. You know, Zelensky has, I'm not saying that Putin's a perfect guy. He's got problems. I don't know if he's a dictator or not. He's been in power for 25 years? But they've had elections. I don't know too much about their elections, nor do I care. But I know this. Zelensky's term is up. He stayed president. He outlawed political dissent by outlawing the oppositional political parties. He outlawed freedom of the press. He's outlawed freedom of religion. An American journalist who opposed his positions died in a Ukrainian jail. That's freedom that we're supposedly fighting for? I don't think so. See, here's the thing. The Ukrainian and the Russian people are the same people. So, yeah, they're not free countries like we are. They're dictators here, dictator there. But we're not fighting for freedom in Ukraine. We're fighting for military-industrial complex money. And it doesn't surprise me that a guy who may work for the military-industrial complex or is retired from it, claiming that he has all this classified information that he can't share that backs up. How convenient that a caller calls in and they can't back up anything they say with evidence because everything they know is classified. That's a new tactic. That's one of those seminar callers that I talk about that the Democrats send on shows to spread propaganda. Now, speaking of dictatorships, these judges that are involved in an insurrection against the president, every time President Trump turns on the lights in the White House, some federal judge makes a ruling ordering him to turn the lights off. And now Judge Chunkin's back in the mix. Judge Chunkin, she was the one that was handling the Jack Smith case against President Trump on the insurrection charges. Judge Chunkin has blocked Lee Zeldin from taking back the $20 billion from the EPA slush fund. Remember, she was Hunter's boss at the law firm? These judges are out of control. Now we find out Justice Roberts, who came out yesterday supporting that lower federal judge over Trump, he put that judge on the FISA court, the secret court. Okay, I wonder what things that guy's done for FISA, that judge. This is not a country run by unelected judges, I'm sorry to tell you. And I would definitely consider it an insurrection. All right, I've lost track of what order the calls came in, so let's just go. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, IB. Good morning.
Hey, IB, what's up?
Boy, really quickly, I'm going to cover three things. First, the Kennedy assassination. Back then, I forgot the lady's name. I think her name was Martha, the personal secretary. I could be wrong about the name. She did an interview where she basically said, through her own mouth, she heard it in person, that Lyndon B. Johnson actually said, "Oh, after tomorrow, we won't have to worry about that SOB anymore."
Yeah, the Kennedys.
And
yes.
I wish we could find that. I wish we can find that interview of her saying that. I forgot if it was.
Yeah, I've forgotten about that. I remember hearing that. Yes.
Yeah, and another thing, we know there were multiple shooters, and you cannot shoot 2 or 3 or 4 shots in that period of time with a bolt action rifle. So obviously there was a second shooter, just like they did with Trump. We don't think it was only the one guy in Butler, but behind the grassy knoll, just like you have manholes, people go down under the ground for different reasons. There was a little tunnel back there with a manhole where you can kind of go in one spot and pop up behind the grassy knoll, and then after the shots are fired and everybody obviously hits the ground, hits the deck, so then they're not going to be kind of looking around in a way, and then all you have to do is go slip back down in the hole.
Well, remember remember there were people that saw Lee Harvey Oswald in the lunchroom of the book depository, and he wasn't even out of breath or breaking a sweat. It was like nothing had happened. Come on, give me a break.
Right.
You know?
That's why he said, I'm a patsy. I'm being a patsy. And as for the shuttle, as for the Dragon capsule coming down yesterday in the Gulf of America, man, that was so beautiful. Beautiful day, calm waters, and what the people were doing on the outside was making sure that they would be protected from the hyperbolic vapors.
You know, that was, you know, in my entire life, I've never watched a splashdown of a space capsule ever. First time. And it's the first time I've watched the landing of an American spacecraft since maybe the first shuttle landing, right? Because that was a big deal because it landed like an airplane. And it was really it was a beautiful thing to see American excellence, American pride, and all that back. And then look at the left. You know, these poor astronauts, when they took them all out on stretchers, which I've never seen that happen before. But when they took the two out that had been stranded up there, they were really bad. You could tell, especially the lady, and she's not young.
Because of the body, the bone density being up there for over a certain period of time, like they were almost a year up there. The body cannot handle it when it comes back down to Earth. The gravity, so they have to get the physical strength back.
But the left, you know, the media and the liberals, no heroes welcome, no congratulations. They barely cover it because Elon's MAGA. And, you know, this, and I was talking about this in the first hour, the lady astronaut, if Kamala were president right now, or anyone but Trump, she'd be on The View as soon as she could stand up and walk. But she's not going to be on The View because they think it gives Elon and Trump some positive press. So they're not going to honor this. This woman, they would name schools after this woman if Trump and Elon weren't MAGA. But they're not.
I'll bet you if Kamala had won, they would have had probably CNN on the boat waiting for the captain to come on the boat.
That's right.
Come out the door.
Instead of those amateur girls from NASA doing the commentary, you're right. It would have been an anchor. It would have been an anchor from CNN.
I'm glad you said that because I couldn't believe all I was hearing was women's voice. Not that's a bad thing, but it kind of made me question why is everything I'm hearing just only women? Where are the men? And then the guys that were on TV talking about it only mentioned SpaceX twice, but they say NASA and SpaceX, but never mentioned Elon's name. So I was kind of really pissed about that. But you know that's how.
And you know, and if you remember back in the days of when we had space capsules before, they used to land in the Pacific because it's so big they couldn't be as accurate. This came down on a dime, exactly where they expected it, off the coast of Florida and the Gulf of America. They kept saying off the coast of Tallahassee, which Tallahassee is not on the coast, but regardless, you know, that's what they said. But I've never seen, but I was amazed at how, as soon as it hit the water, you could see the speedboats and the ship coming. It landed like a needle right where it was supposed to on target. And the technology that Elon Musk has given us, the space program has advanced 100 years under Elon Musk. For them to come down right back in the old days of the space capsule, it would take a long time for the ships to get there. They would send out aircraft carriers, and it could take hours sometimes. And they landed right where they were supposed to, exactly on target.
You've been saying it all along. You've been saying it all along. Just like that caller saying that we have the Albert Einstein of today. If the guy can park, if he can park a rocket, why can't he have that big space of ocean just like shooting a bow?
Oh, I was so. I mean, I watched the whole thing. I watched it for a couple hours. Before the reentry, I stopped watching when they took the two astronauts away from the capsule, on the last two that were stranded. Then I stopped, but I watched it for a couple of hours. They even had a view we've never seen before. They had an airplane flying above the capsule on reentry that was flying like almost in space, looking down so you could see it come down and from above, which is a view I've never seen before.
Wait till you see the new fighter planes and space planes that Elon has already designed, and I probably think one of them is already.
Yeah. All right, IB. I'm late for the break, but I got to run. We'll be right back. Hey, hold on. We'll be back in less than a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. It's time to check in with William Youngerman with the Morning Gold and Precious Metals Report from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated in Boca. William Youngerman, how are the metals starting off?
The metals are starting off again strong after a huge day yesterday. Gold closing up $33.60 after getting as high as $3,040 the ounce, Brian, and closing out today at $3,034.40, up $33.60, and of course an all-time new record high, which also we hit a new high overnight last night. But silver yesterday closed up 14 cents at $33.96. Platinum remained unchanged at $1,000, and palladium was down $3.950. Overnight, we saw gold trade in a range of $3,024 all the way up to $3,046, and currently we're at $3,039 the ounce. That's up another $4.60. Silver down 16 cents right now at $33.80. Platinum down $10 at $9.90, and palladium down $9 at $9.41. So gold continues to be the metal to own.
Yeah, that's true. You know, I wanted to for you to tell people a little bit that may not be into the metals, but hear this and like, wow, why can't I get on board? But I don't have over $3,000 for an ounce. There's gold really for every budget. Can you tell people about fractional gold?
Yeah, we have gold just about in every size you can imagine, from 1 gram bars all the way up to kilo bars, and you can get coins, beautiful coins in just 1/10 ounce sizes. In fact, some coins even come in a 1/20th of an ounce.
Really?
Coin. So, but the 10th ounce size gold coins are an excellent value, and we strongly recommend those that can't afford the ounce. That's fine. Just accumulate a 10th ounce gold whenever you can.
And you get 10 of those, and you've got an ounce of gold. Remember, and that's great. But and those 10th ounce coins, which are beautiful. Can you tell people they come from the major mints, like the American Mint has a 10th ounce gold coin.
Yes, indeed. They come with the U.S. Gold Eagles, 1/10 ounce gold Eagles. The Royal Canadian Mint makes the 1/10 ounce Maple Leaf. Australia has the 1/10 ounce Kangaroos. China has the 1/10 ounce China Pandas. So there's plenty of sizes, and you can build a little collection of these if you want.
Yeah, and they are gold, which is awesome. William Youngerman opens up at 10 a.m. You can stop in at 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca. And, you know, fractional gold in general is a good thing because sometimes maybe you need some money for something and you don't have to sell a full ounce, right? So there's all kinds of benefits to it. His address is 150 East Palmetto Park Road in Boca, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, just east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. You can give him a call toll-free, 1-800-327-5010, 1-800-327-5010, and find both his phone number and address on his website, williamyoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, we're back. You know, the thing about it's interesting what happened yesterday. American excellence with SpaceX, and then the JFK file release shows an American sad moment when our own government killed the president of the United States in Dallas. And, you know, don't let anyone tell you that these files are old news. They are not. And they're unredacted. There are endless names that have never been known before, many of them CIA. And I was talking at the top of the show at 6 Over 80,000 pages, over 1,000 documents, all in PDF form. There were so many Kennedy, I call them armchair historians, history buffs on JFK that are experts on this. They'll put together connections that none of us will see. But the one connection we're seeing throughout everything that's come out so far, CIA, 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 through the whole thing. And it's a confirmation and proof that our own government killed the president. We know the CIA killed Bobby, and our own forces inside our own government, we don't know yet, they shot President Trump and Butler. Everybody believes that, and I'm looking forward. This will lead to those files being released. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. It's JJ from
Oh, hey, JJ.
Hey, Brian. You know, one of the reasons, actually a couple of reasons why Russia, going back to not joining NATO was, well, first and foremost, we wouldn't have the boogeyman to threaten, to scare everybody, manipulate everybody into, to spending all the money on military equipment. But the second one would be is that if they did join, they wouldn't have been a minor player. They would have been a manufacturer of arms, and they would have cut into the market share of the General Dynamics, the
That's right.
Raytheons and
That's
Boeing.
right.
Boeing, the people that were responsible for stranding, two astronauts up in space, and Joe Biden being a punk and not letting Elon go and getting them.
That's right.
So,
There's a panic going on. There's a panic going on in D.C. over an alliance between the United States and Russia that Trump will broker. They're panicked over this, and we're going to see such anti-Russian propaganda in the media moving forward. I'm really short on time, but I appreciate the call. I'm a little short today. Oh, I got to tell you guys, I was talking about the cruise. There's one suite opened up on our cruise ship. Call Ian, guys, about that. It may have been sold already. I don't know. But I was trying on my cruise clothes. I tried on one of my swim trunks, and I pulled the string as tight as it would go, and it was still falling off my body. I know. I'm all choked up even thinking about it because I've lost all this weight thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And today is my daughter's 26th birthday. Very excited. Happy birthday to her. My daughter's 26 years old today. And I am at the weight that I was when my daughter was born 26 years ago, thanks to Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Isn't that amazing? I didn't think it was possible. And I lost the weight in the hardest part of the body to lose the weight, my stomach, my waist, and my legs. And it's awesome. And I feel great. I look great. I have tons of energy. And it's really, really awesome. Call Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And I just wanted to lose 25 pounds. But maybe you want to lose less, 20 pounds. Maybe you want to lose 40, 50 pounds or even more. Give them a call. When you call, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. That's 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
I'm well.
Daughter's
Thank you.
birthday today. Congratulations. Congratulations on
Yes.
Daughter's
Thank
birthday.
you. Thank you.
So, with all this going on, I just have to ask, when do you, just at an estimation, right? I mean, the healing process, everything broken, it's got to be fixed, I get it. When do you think all this is going to take place?
What's the this you're talking about? I don't know what you're referencing.
I'm talking about the volatility of the market. I'm talking about
The market's volatile. The market, things are looking great. President Trump's brought $1 trillion in new money into the country for the industry. I don't understand what you're talking about. The economy.
Well, that still haven't. That still
gas prices dropped. Egg prices have dropped.
We already talked about the gas prices.
Gold's over. Gas is down a lot. Gold's over 3,000. Egg prices dropped. The economy's doing well.
Okay, hold on one second. You can tell by an economy, especially this one, in uncertain times, that's when gold prices go up.
Oh, really? Then why has no, you're wrong. In fact, why has oil?
I could be wrong on two factors.
You're wrong. You're wrong on all factors. Why has gas and eggs dropped significantly?
Okay, you ready for this? I'll tell you this without you hanging up on me, okay? Gasoline companies, okay, will sit down to make the American people happy. They will lose a couple of millions because they know
A couple of millions? They would be losing billions. I'm out of time. I'm out of time. I don't have time for your liberal gobbledygook. You should have called earlier. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. See you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Ugh. What an idiot. What an idiot. Great calls today. I wish he would have called a few minutes earlier. So I'd like to hear Tom's economic outlook. Now, if you're new, make sure you subscribe. My name's Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. And if you're already subscribed, do me the favor of liking the video and sharing on all your social media, if you don't mind. Very good show today. Great calls. You guys added a lot in the chat room, as well as those of you who called in. All right, guys. I'll see you later. Thanks for watching. Take care.